story.
Oh, Jeff Davis, you're a gift.
I've heard that before. I've also heard the gift should be returned some days after I kill certain characters. I don't kill them. They die because of the story.
So we've seen a lot of horror so far in the season, but there's not a lot that anyone's really talking about in terms of how she survived the fire or where she's been for the last 6 years.
Right.
And no one on the show is really asking or seems particularly bothered by not knowing.
Yeah.
Why? And is there anything you can tell us about how she survived or anything like that?
We wanted to keep that part a mystery. The idea was that she had survived the fire and went off. It was sort of like an event that scatters the surviving tales. So Laura and Derek went off to this side of the earth, and Laura went off to this side of the earth and was alone for years and years, surviving on her own. And that's why she comes back quite tough. What we wanted to do was be able to save that story as a possibility for a flashback episode. The issue with that is the very talented Adelaide Kane got picked up by a pilot, so which actually affected the end of our shooting. But that happens in this business, and maybe we'll grab her back to tell more stories with her. But she's a phenomenal actor, though, so thank you so much. So we would love to have her back and tell more horror stories if she survives this season.
You've obviously added several new characters this year. Is it difficult trying to balance the new characters with still giving enough screen time to...
It's a challenge. It really is. And I have a rule in the writers' room when we're breaking stories, which is that none of these secondary characters, none of the new characters should eclipse our primary characters. We should always take care of our main characters the most and tell those stories. And it's still Scott McCall, Stiles, Lydia, Allison, and Derek story. So minus Jackson this year, unfortunately. But I think we've done a pretty good job at introducing all these new characters and creating new relationships and new conflicts. The response from the audience has certainly been good. So it's hard not to fumble here and there in the pace of TV. Some of the episodes I eventually have to write in 7 days. So we cut out a scene from episode 9 the other day, and one of my producers asked me why we were getting rid of that scene, and I said, because it's terrible. It was awful. I can't believe I wrote that crap. Get rid of it. But that's the pace of TV. It's a challenge, and sometimes you're surprised at how good it can be under pressure. But do we wish sometimes we had more time? Absolutely. And it's even harder now trying to do 24 episodes in a span of a little over a year. But hopefully we'll get it done. That's why I have a great team of writers and producers around me.
So we learned that there's going to be Asian influence in the fall of season 3. What made you decide to go with that specifically and the kitsune mythology as well?
Well, we're always exploring new villains, new types of shapeshifters, and the kitsune is a myth that I've always enjoyed because there's so many facets to it. One of the interesting things about it is a shapeshifter can be a beautiful woman. The kitsune can be a fox, it can be a tree, it can be a mountain. I'm like, how did they shapeshift into a mountain? It's great, like, folklore, but there's lots of, it works especially for the psychology of 3B. We're delving into the darker sides of certain characters. We call our winter season sort of the dark half of Teen Wolf. So as
The
dark
half of Teen Wolf?
I think we're going to be pushing.
That's dark?
Yeah. So as dark as we've gotten this year, we've got further to go, I guess. But it's one of those that the myths that we really we want to delve into, and it allows us to bring in some new characters. So we're hoping it works out. We've just started the writing process, and we have 2 scripts now. We're outlining the middle half. We've got a breakdown for pretty much the entire season. We set out our twists and turns. We always know kind of how it's going to end, sometimes we even know the last scene right when we start first writing the script. We knew the last scene of this season before we started writing the first script of 3A.
Follow up on the dark path. I asked Tyler and Dylan the same question. The two of them clearly have experienced trauma to levels that clearly gave both characters post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
And with Stiles' recent reactions and Derek's entire behavior, his whole character, they clearly have it. How do you go about writing that? What triggers have you given them? What psychological landscape have you given, and Lydia as well? Your
we try to
characters
make it feel realistic as much as we can. It's difficult because we can take the show down a certain path, but we still want the show to be fun. So it's like, how much fun can you have when you're damaging your characters in this way? It's a balance of genre and tone. It's very difficult to maintain. I often find myself calling up. I call my brother, who's my twin brother, is a cognitive therapist, and we'll talk about the characters together. And he's a great resource for that. But we're actually going to see a lot of that in the winter season. The repercussions of all of these things happening come back in the winter season, and we delve into that. We're starting to call our winter season 3B, the psychological thriller, whereas this was sort of an action-packed suspense drama. The next one's going to be very, very psychological. So we're going to delve into their psyches a bit more.
Quick follow-up on the still have fun. How far can you push Derek before it just stops being dramatic and just starts being either A, repetitive, or B, just bleak hopelessness?
I like to take a character down as far as you can go. The writers want to be tough on their characters. You want to lead them for every bit of drama you can. You're going to see actually kind of triumphant Derek at the end of this season, and part of that comes out of Cora, his relationship with Cora. So he's going to have to sacrifice a bit more. He's going to be beaten up a little bit more, but I think we leave him at the end of this season a different person, grown for it. And when we come back to him in the winter season, if he survives, you'll see a different guy. I think it'll be interesting. It's all ways of making the character grow. So we're tough on Derek. We'd like to really continue down there.
So any chance that we might see the introduction of some lesbian characters or trans characters later on?
Yeah, we're trying to introduce as many more as we can. I think we kind of want Zelda Williams to come back. I liked her character; she did such a good job. So we're exploring all sorts of, exploring many of those ideas in the writers' room. So we're always looking to expand our world and to be as inclusive as possible. So
Allison was the one who discovered Erica's body, and Derek carried her out. But since then, the only person who's mentioned Erica has been Boyd. Is there more to Boyd and Erica's story that we haven't seen yet?
Well, there was going to be. The part of the issue with the TV landscape these days is you lose certain actors to other projects. So, and Gage, we had planned out a completely different arc for both Erica and Boyd in 3A, but Gage Golightly and her people wanted to try for broadcast networks, and she got a pilot. So she was a star of a pilot this season. Company Town, I think it was called. It didn't go forward, but it was a really good chance for her to expand her career as an actress. So you wish them well, but it forces you to make certain changes in the story. If we were to bring her back and do like a flashback, we would definitely delve into more of a character background. But in certain ways, you have to start moving on and focus on the characters. You still have actors to play them. What's that? Yes, there's a big. We do a big homage to The Man Who Knew Too Much, which is one of my favorite movies. It has the ending, if you remember, is Doris Day and the scream during the big concert, the opera. I think it's going to be a really fun episode. It's a lot of revelations happen during that episode, so I would say pay attention to the audience because it'll be a fun one. So, and it was actually really nice to be able to to have our composer, the guy who does the score for all of Teen Wolf, play the part of the conductor. And if you remember The Man Who Knew Too Much, Bernard Herrmann played the part of the conductor for Hitchcock in that scene. So it's our little homage to Hitchcock. We're all big, in the writers' room, we're very big Hitchcock fans.
Given how inclusive Teen Wolf is overall, are you surprised at how well it's been accepted, considering that it really is breaking new ground in terms of how it's inclusive of LGBT?
Yeah, it is nice to see. We try to treat it without too much. We try to make it feel as though it's part of the world and that the world doesn't question it really. Like the scene in Motel California where we have a sex scene between two guys and we have a sex scene between a guy and a girl, and they're treated almost exactly the same. So it's an effort to. I think make a dimensional world, but also to make one that does. It's very important to me as a gay man myself to be able to do that.
Speaking of inclusion, the Argents, especially in season 1 and then in a later episode in season 2, you make a really big point about how the women are the leaders of the Argents, and yet all through season 1 and season 2, the only people we see in charge of the Argents are the men. You've got Chris and you've got Gerard, and those are our main military leaders in the Argents.
Well, I would say that season 2 was sort of a bringing Allison up into that leadership role. There's that moment, there's that scene, which episode, where she says, where they turn to her and they say, it's your decision. And she says, I want Derek dead. And if anyone gets in the way, we kill them too. So it's hard to hand the keys to the whole machinery over to a teenage girl, but you're going to see, actually see a new set of hunters in the winter season, and it's led by a woman who we have yet to cast. Should be a cool role. So yes, we did. It was Arjun and Gerard, but part of that was because Victoria had died. Does that answer your question? Slightly? You have this look of dissatisfaction.
You know, we never really saw Victoria, except for that one scene where she comes in and is like, you know, well, then we kill them all. Anybody want a cookie? You know, we don't really see Victoria do any leading. And the fact that, you know, they're Argents and it's a male name that gets passed down, how do the women become leaders? It just seems there's a few holes and it just doesn't really make
that sounds more like a critique than a question.
No, and I'm trying to like understand. I'm just trying to understand. So, you know, like that's why I'm.
Well, hopefully we have more stories to tell.
Yeah, like I'm like, is there an answer to how that works that's coming?
We'll see.
What does Scott possibly ascending to this role of alpha mean for Derek and having two alphas in that? Could Derek ever potentially step down from an alpha?
That question is brought up in the last third of this season, so you'll see. And it's a difficult conflict for both of them, yeah. But we wanted to create them as sort of allies in the end of the season. So there's some twists and turns that'll happen. I think that are quite surprising.
Last question. Obviously last season we had the Kanema, and then this season we've had the Alphas. Have you ever thought about doing just like a Monster of the Week?
We had discussed that in the first part of actually developing the show, it was actually supposed to be episodic, but we felt like we'd be exploring the same territory that a lot of other shows did, and probably did better, like the X-Files, like Supernatural was doing, and Buffy had done. So we thought, what if we try to just make it serialized and try to tell one larger story per 12 episodes? It's certainly something that we considered, yeah. But I think there are so many shows that have done it so well that we'd have to be pretty damn good to take on that mantle as well. Anything else?
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.